Luxury cars promise speed, status, and control, but in the wrong moment, they can become weapons of destruction. In this video, we'll uncover 5 real stories where high-end cars weren't just involved in deadly crashes. They were at the center of chilling, often bizarre events. Some victims were speeding, others weren't even behind the wheel. But all 5 stories end the same way: fast, violent, and full of unanswered questions.
In the early hours of March 18, 2012, at around 4 a.m., a tragic accident occurred near the Baofu-Siqiao Bridge in Haidian District, Beijing. A Ferrari supercar was speeding recklessly from west to east when it lost control at the southeastern corner of the bridge.
It was March 18, 2012, in Beijing. On the North 4th Ring Road, something was tearing through the darkness. A black Ferrari 458 Spider, roaring far beyond the speed limit. Inside were 3 young passengers. The man behind the wheel, just 23 years old. His name, Ling Gu. But this wasn't just any rich kid out for a joyride. Ling was the only son of Ling Jihua, one of China's most powerful political figures, a man deeply connected to then-President Hu Jintao. The Ferrari lost control near Baofuzi Bridge and slammed into a wall at terrifying speed. The crash was catastrophic. Ling Gu was killed instantly. One of the 2 women with him also died, while the other survived, but just barely. Her injuries were devastating. She would never walk again. First responders who arrived on the scene found the car mangled beyond recognition. At first, no one could even identify who they were. But soon, rumors began to swirl. Whispers turned into online chatter. A photo of the wreckage found its way into the Beijing Evening News, then exploded across Chinese social media. Who was the driver? Why was a $500,000 Ferrari speeding through Beijing in the dead of night with 2 barely clothed women inside? The questions were just starting. Then, just as quickly as the photo appeared, it vanished. Comments disappeared. Entire threads were erased. Searches for Ferrari, Little Ling, or Prince Ling suddenly returned nothing. It was as if the crash had never happened. Behind the scenes, powerful hands were scrambling. The government was working overtime to bury the story. Ling Gu's name was changed in official reports. Some say to Jia, a word that, in Mandarin, sounds like fake. Coincidence? Maybe. But it caused even more confusion. Another official with the surname Jia reportedly expressed anger at the rumors, adding to the chaos. Even Ling's own father was shown the body, but allegedly denied it was his son. The cover-up machinery kicked into full gear. There were reports that Ling Jihua reached out to Zhou Yongkang, head of China's powerful legal and political affairs department, begging for help to make the story disappear. Publicly, the Chinese government said nothing, not a word. But behind closed doors in Beijing's political circles, the truth was clear. The timing couldn't have been worse. China was weeks away from a major leadership transition. President Hu was stepping down. Xi Jinping was preparing to take power. Ling Jihua had been expected to ascend into China's elite Politburo Standing Committee. But 5 months after the crash, without explanation, he was quietly removed from his role and reassigned to a lesser position. It wasn't just a demotion, it was a fall from grace. The story would have stayed buried, but then the South China Morning Post broke the silence. They confirmed Ling Gu had in fact died in the crash. Global outlets picked up the story. Foreign media speculated on the more scandalous details, claims of sexual activity in the car, hush money, even oil executives stepping in to clean things up. Meanwhile, in China, the silence continued, but the people noticed. Online, netizens raged. How could a young man from a government family with an $8,000 a year salary afford a Ferrari? Why did these so-called princelings live lives of obscene wealth while ordinary people struggled? Reports surfaced that the families of the 2 women were paid off to keep quiet. Some claimed the money came from politically connected business leaders. Efforts were made to spread misinformation online, using fake accounts to discredit the rumors. But by then, the damage was done. The truth was out, and the story, despite government efforts, refused to die. Among Ling Gu's classmates, the silence was even more eerie. One former roommate recalled how they had planned to attend graduate school together. After the crash, he never saw him again. No memorial, no mention, just gone. The crash was never officially acknowledged, but people kept whispering. It was Easter Sunday, March 31st, 2024, and northern Italy was bathed in soft midday light. On the A4A5 highway between Ivrea and Santhia, traffic moved steadily, but a white Ferrari GTC 4 tore through the lanes like a missile. Inside were 40-year-old DJ Nick Kastad, known in Europe's nightlife scene as DJ Style Q, and 21-year-old Ukrainian model Anna Kravska. Just hours earlier, they had left a nightclub in Sion, Switzerland, where Kastad had performed. Witnesses saw him leave with Anna in the early morning. Then, nothing. Anna stopped posting. No calls, no messages. Friends grew anxious. She had said she was going to Italy. Then she vanished. Kastad was a familiar face in clubs across Europe. Though living in Switzerland, his wife and 2 children remained in Kosovo. Anna, originally from Odessa, had rebuilt her life in Switzerland, modeling and documenting her journey on social media. She seemed full of life, but on that highway, everything would end in seconds. At around 1 p.m., near Alice Costello, the Ferrari hit nearly 200 kilometers per h, 124 miles per hour. One wrong move. The car veered. Impact. It slammed into a guardrail with such force the Ferrari split in two. Flames burst from the wreck. A wheel flew off and landed far from the crash. The front of the car, where both were seated, was annihilated. Emergency crews arrived fast, but it was too late. The bodies were unrecognizable. Only a gold watch near the driver's seat survived, Kastad's. The second victim couldn't be visually identified. But Swiss police had just received a missing person report. Anna's friends feared the worst. Among the wreckage was a second watch, small, elegant, seen often in Anna's posts. Her friends knew it was hers. That, paired with club witness accounts and the timeline, confirmed what no one wanted to believe. Investigators found no mechanical failure or other vehicles involved. The cause was clear. Speed. Nothing more, nothing less. Photos of the wreck spread online. Charred metal, twisted remains, silence. The road was shut for hours. Cleanup teams worked through scorched debris, every shard a piece of a larger tragedy. There was no conspiracy here, no foul play. Just 2 lives, 1 powerful car, and a moment that couldn't be undone. On a quiet Italian highway, the road ran out and took everything with it.
An Adelaide man who hit and killed a 15-year-old girl with his Lamborghini has received a suspended jail sentence of 4 months and 27 days.
It was just before 10 p.m. on June 22, 2019, in Glengowrie, a quiet suburb in Adelaide, South Australia. The streets were still. A chill lingered in the winter air. 15-year-old Sophia Naismith was walking with her best friend, Jordan Callick, down Morfett Road. They passed storefronts, restaurants glowing softly in the dark. It was a regular evening, a simple walk. Nothing felt out of place. Then, screeching tires, a flash of white, metal against concrete, glass shattering. In an instant, everything changed. A white Lamborghini Huracan had veered off the road. It launched over the curb and struck the girls with devastating force before slamming into the House of Tea and Chinese restaurant. The driver was 37-year-old Alexander Campbell. He'd only owned the car for 4 months. It was worth $330,000 and had custom plates that read one word: Psycho. That night, he was driving it in sport mode, a setting that disabled key safety systems, including electronic stability control. More power, less control. Sophia never stood a chance. She died at the scene. Jordan, badly injured, was rushed to Flinders Medical Center. From her hospital bed, she posted a photo and a heartbreaking tribute to her best friend. "You will be forever loved and never forgotten." The news tore through Adelaide like wildfire. Sophia wasn't just another name in the headlines. She was kind, driven, vibrant, a student at Brighton Secondary, a volleyball star selected to represent South Australia at Nationals in just a few weeks. Her parents, Pia and Luke, had watched her grow into someone full of promise. And just like that, gone. Thousands came to her memorial. Flowers piled up on Morfett Road. Her school opened grief support. The whole city felt it. The randomness, the injustice, the unimaginable loss. Then came the trial. Prosecutors argued Campbell knew exactly what he was doing. He had disabled the car's safeguards. He knew how cold the roads were. They believed he'd lost control of the Lamborghini earlier that night. The charge, causing death by dangerous driving. But 3 years later, a judge found him not guilty of that charge. Said the prosecution couldn't prove, beyond a reasonable doubt, that he had accelerated dangerously. Instead, he was convicted of a lesser offense, aggravated driving without due care. The sentence? No prison time. Just a suspended term, 4 months and 27 days. A bit of community service, a good behavior bond. His license was suspended, but much of that time had already passed while he awaited trial. Outside court, Sophia's parents stood in disbelief. Her mother called the sentence sickening. Her father vowed to turn their grief into action. If the system couldn't deliver justice for their daughter, then maybe they could change the system itself. And they did. Over the next few years, Sophia's name sparked a movement. Sophia's Law was introduced in South Australia. New penalties, up to $5,000, for disabling safety features in high-powered vehicles. A new offense was created, causing death or harm through careless driving, now punishable by up to 7 years in prison. Police were given more authority to immediately suspend licenses, and soon, ultra-high-powered cars would require a special license to operate. Sophia's legacy reached beyond legislation. Volleyball SA created the Sophia Naismith SA Spirit Award, honoring young athletes who embody compassion, teamwork, and determination, everything Sophia was known for. In 2023, the first award went to Zephyr Bruce, a player who kept showing up for her team even while recovering from an injury. Sophia's parents personally handed her the award. Sophia didn't die behind the wheel. She didn't take risks or chase danger. She was simply walking with a friend, under streetlights on a quiet night. But a man in a powerful machine made a series of reckless decisions, and the justice system, for all its rules and procedures, couldn't quite catch up to the loss he'd left behind. It was the morning of November 22nd, 2023, just hours before Thanksgiving. At the Rainbow Bridge crossing near Niagara Falls, traffic crawled along. Border booths processed cars one by one. Everything looked routine, and then chaos. Out of nowhere, a silver Bentley flying spur came roaring down Niagara Street. Witnesses barely had time to react. The car sped through intersections, swerved slightly, then struck the median at full force. What happened next didn't look real. It looked like something from a movie. The Bentley launched into the air. A 100-pound machine lifted off the ground like paper and slammed directly into a border inspection booth. Then came the explosion. A blinding fireball lit up the sky. Smoke poured across the road. Metal flew. People screamed. The vehicle was instantly unrecognizable, reduced to burning wreckage. Border agents ran toward the flames, but it was already too late. Emergency crews rushed in. Sirens echoed over the bridge. Within minutes, the entire border shut down. All 4 crossings between the U.S. and Canada were sealed off. News helicopters circled. Social media exploded. Was it a terror attack? A suicide mission? Panic spread fast. But as the hours passed, the truth unraveled. 2 days later, the victims were identified. Kurt and Monica Vani, both 53 from Grand Island, New York, just 10 miles away. Not terrorists, not fugitives, just a married couple on their way to a concert. They had been together since 1995, built a successful hardware business, raised 2 kids, and were loved by nearly everyone who knew them. That morning, they had stopped by the Seneca Niagara Resort and Casino. Their destination was a Kiss concert in Toronto, one that had been canceled just hours earlier. Whether they knew or not, they got into the car and kept driving. But this wasn't just any car. The Bentley Flying Spur is a supercharged luxury beast, capable of hitting 60 miles per hour in under 4 seconds. It's a machine built for performance, not for weaving through city streets. Security footage later showed the Bentley tearing past traffic, ignoring at least 4 red lights. The crash injured a border agent in the booth, but miraculously, they survived. Kurt and Monica did not. They were killed instantly. From the moment they turned onto Niagara Street to the moment of impact, only 30 seconds passed. 30 seconds. What could have gone so wrong? Friends remembered Kurt mentioning something about the gas pedal weeks earlier. He thought something felt off, but no one knew if the car had ever been checked. Bentley Motors stayed silent. The 2022 model had a few recalls, but none related to acceleration, at least not in this version. A recall in 2021 had addressed pedal issues, but only on right-hand drive models overseas. A road safety engineer who studied the crash footage noticed something strange, a dark vapor trail behind the Bentley. It wasn't smoke from fire, it looked like burned rubber, a sign that the brakes were locked, that Kurt had been awake, alert, trying desperately to stop, and failing. The Vanis left behind 2 adult children, Kurt Jr., a former hockey standout, and Mia, 27. The family was known locally for their generosity. In 2014, Kurt and his father had handed out 250 turkeys to families in need for Thanksgiving. They gave to their community, supported neighbors, sponsored local causes. This wasn't the first time tragedy had touched their lives. Back in 1978, Kurt's grandmother died in a boating accident on the Niagara River. A poorly lit bridge caused the crash. The family later won a lawsuit. Now history had come back in the cruelest way imaginable, on the same river, near another bridge. There were no criminal charges, no villain to blame. The FBI ruled out terrorism within hours, but people were still left asking, how does something like this happen? It was May 10th, 2025, in the rugged mountains of northern Spain. Along the twisting N621 highway in Leon, a convoy of Ferraris wound its way through the breathtaking landscape. Among them, a sleek black Ferrari 488 GTB, its engine humming with nearly 700 horsepower, piloted by a British couple. He was 78, she was 58. Both part of a 20-car rally for luxury car enthusiasts who had come all the way from the UK. This wasn't just a casual weekend drive. It was an elite tour, an adrenaline-fueled escape through scenic but dangerous roads. The N621 is infamous. Beautiful, yes, but unforgiving. Sharp turns, sudden drops, narrow lanes hugging cliffsides. One wrong move here and there's little margin for correction. But in that Ferrari, worth over $400,000 and capable of speeds over 200 miles per hour, the thrill could easily overpower caution. The couple had arrived in Leon the day before. Spirits were high. The group was looking forward to a picture-perfect drive through the mountains, engines echoing across valleys. But just after 1:45 p.m., something went horribly wrong. Witnesses remember the black Ferrari moving fast, too fast. It approached a curve, then veered, skidding toward the edge. In a flash, it was gone. The car plunged off the road and disappeared into the ravine below. Moments later, a call came in. A vehicle had gone off the cliff and landed in the Uso River. When emergency responders arrived, they were met with a grim and difficult scene. The Ferrari lay upside down in the shallow water, half submerged, its roof caved in, its once pristine body now twisted and crushed. Debris from the impact was scattered across the rocks and water. Inside the wreckage, 2 people were trapped, lifeless, pinned by the wreck. Reaching them wasn't easy. The riverbank was wild, thick with underbrush and steep inclines. Firefighters had to hack their way through just to get close. Hours passed as they worked to stabilize the car, remove the doors, and retrieve the victims. It took more than 6 grueling hours to recover the bodies and extract the shattered vehicle from the water. The silence of the river, the green stillness of the valley, made the wreck feel even more haunting. The names of the couple were never released, but officials confirmed they were British citizens. The car bore a UK license plate. They were part of the rally. Alone in that moment, no other vehicles were involved. The cause? Still unclear. Some believe the Ferrari simply lost control around the curve. Others suspect the driver may have suffered a medical emergency. Local experts said it wouldn't take much. A split-second lapse, a twitch of the wheel, and a car like that, with that much power, would be impossible to rein in. Photos from the scene tell the story the survivors can't. The black Ferrari, half submerged, glass shattered, metal torn, resting in a river that now holds the echoes of that crash. The road above, silent again. The thrill of the rally gone in an instant. For the emergency workers, it wasn't just another call. Some described the rescue as one of the hardest they'd ever experienced. To spend hours waist-deep in water trying to save 2 people who couldn't be saved, it leaves something behind. The UK's Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office confirmed the deaths. They reached out to the families. News of the crash spread fast, from local bulletins in Spain to international headlines. Online, people shared their shock, their sympathy, their disbelief. And for those who knew the couple personally, the grief was sharp, sudden, and difficult to make sense of. This wasn't the first tragedy involving tourists in Spain, but this one felt different. A scenic rally, a dream car, and a road that demanded respect, all colliding in the worst possible way. The Ferrari was lifted from the river that same evening, battered and broken. Investigators continued combing the area, trying to piece together what had gone wrong.